Hey everybody, Justin White here, and you're about to listen to episode 17 of Power Forward. Our guests are Mike Kortas and Matt Grella, the co-owners of NEXA Mortgage in Arizona. NEXA is one of the biggest mortgage broker shops in the country, and Mike and Matt recently made a decision to end a business relationship. Not because it wasn't prosperous, but because this business partner of theirs didn't share the same values as Mike and Matt. We're going to get into that and find out why it's so important to put long-term gains over short-term pains. Power Forward with the owners of NEXA Mortgage comes your way right now. The primary purpose of this podcast series is to inform, entertain, and educate. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast series do not constitute legal or other professional advice, opinions, or endorsements of any kind.
This is Power Forward.
All right, welcome back to Power Forward. Justin White and Mateen Cleaves with you. Mateen, what's going on, my man?
Oh, Jay White, you know me, typical thing. Just living a dream, man, not trying to wake up.
All right. Well, we got a great show today. We're going to get into some conversation about decision making and specifically long-term thinking versus short-term thinking. We've also got a couple of great guests. We have Matt Grella and Mike Kortas. They are the co-owners of NEXA Mortgage out in Arizona. They have got some interesting thoughts on a very big business decision that they recently made. So we're going to get into that with Matt and Mike. But first, Mateen, I want to ask you about decisions. You know, we make decisions obviously every single day, from the big ones about, how big of a house am I going to buy to, which credit card am I going to sign up for, to things like, should I buy that hot dog at Costco? Incidentally, the answer there is always yes. You should always buy the hot dog at Costco because number one, it's delicious.
Oh, yeah.
Number two, it's the best deal going. $1.50.
Oh, man.
Plus, you get a free soda.
Can't beat it.
So those are, just some of the decisions that we find ourselves making in life. But, Mateen, when you think about, those decisions that are long-term versus short-term, what are some of the things that come to mind for you?
Well, you know what? Goal setting comes to mind when you think long term. And I think what people have to understand when you're doing something long term, what sticks out to me is consistency. If you want to have long-term success, you have to be consistent in that. And you look at the Tom Brady's of the world. They're having success, but they're having long-term success because they're consistent. Look at the Michael Jordans it was the consistency. So if you want to have long-term success, you got to be consistent at what you're doing.
And guys like you mentioned, the Tom Brady's and Michael Jordans, during their careers, and Brady's still playing, you'd have to think that every decision they make, it's not just, okay, what's good for me today, but what's good for me a week from now, a month from now, a year from now? How am I going to prepare myself to win not just the game this week or tonight, but 2 months from now in the Super Bowl, in the NBA Finals, right?
Right. And I think a lot of these decisions have to be calculated. You just don't go into it. Put some thought into it. You look at a lot of successful people. I don't think there might be some that were spur-of-the-moment decisions and they were able to have success, but most of these decisions that come about were thought of, and there was a game plan to put behind them.
Thinking about that just a little bit, I was in television, as you know, for 16 years. I was a sports anchor and reporter, and I made the decision about 2.5 years ago to leave that career behind, and it was not an easy decision to make. And when I sat down and really wrestled with it, it was very much a long-term play. I thought about, is this going to be my career? Is this going to be what I do for the rest of my career? And because I basically decided the answer was no, I decided to leave. That was a long-term decision. Now, in the short term, it was really tough, because I left a career that I love, that I had poured my heart and soul into, and that I had a lot of passion for. But thinking about it long-term, about, from a career standpoint, from a family standpoint, I knew that as tough as that decision was, it was the right one to make.
Exactly, because you thought about it. That when you're making life decisions, those are not spur-of-the-moment decisions. When I'm playing in a basketball game, okay, I can make a spur-of-the-moment decision because that's reaction. But when you're making a lifetime decision, man, you have to put some thought into it, Justin.
Yeah, and you know what, Mateen? Our guests today are really going to be great resources on this topic. Mike Kortas and Matt Grella, as I mentioned, they are the co-founders of NEXA Mortgage, a mortgage brokerage out of Arizona. By the way, the fourth biggest brokerage in the entire country.
Oh, wow.
Mike and Matt recently made the decision to sever ties with a business partner that they had been working with for many years, and they had experienced a lot of success with. But they did what they thought was best, Mateen, for the long-term growth of their company. Mike and Matt join us now. Guys, welcome to Power Forward.
Hey, how you doing?
We are doing great. Really, really happy to have you here. And, before we dive into your philosophy on that decision and the, long-term versus short-term thought process, give our listeners some background on who you guys are and how you ended up running a mortgage broker shop.
Well, this is Mike, and I guess you can call me an old-school vet in this business. I've been doing it over 20 years and started in 98 as a young pup and went through the broker stuff and went through the financial crisis, got crushed under all that, and got jumped back in, went banker world. And funny is that Matt actually had to talk me into this broker thing. I was fighting it for about a year, Matt, give or take. I was just resisting it. And he's like, Mike, we got to check this thing out. We got to check it out. So we did it, and he talked me into it. And we went broker, 2 years ago, two years and a month ago. And gosh, it's just been it's been great ever since. It's been like living the dream, right? Don't wake me up.
Yeah, it worked out pretty good for us because I think I was very new to being in the mortgage industry, and so I didn't have nearly as many experiences prior to the crash. I didn't have any. So me being naive and going into it, I think it was kind of like that blind justice, but knowing that we believed in ourselves and I believed in our ability to create that, it felt like it was a no-brainer. I wanted to provide the best product, the best experience for my clients, and I think that was at the forefront of our decision. And it's been a great decision ever since.
Oh, wow. And let me dive, because I'm gonna jump right into it, guys, and ask the tough questions, guys. That's what I'm gonna do to get it today. So you guys, you recently had to end a business relationship that was very prosperous for you guys in your company. When making a decision like that, what factors, what weighs into that?
Well, for us, and this is Matt, by the way, for us, it was a combination of defining what our long-term goals, are and aligning them with true partners, true partners in the industry. And, through interactions and kind of seeing a little bit of looking into the future of the writing on the wall and what would come, we identified that there was a need that wasn't being met by that particular partner. And we felt like they could no longer provide us with the growth that we were looking to obtain. So, it was a lot that had to go into the decision. Like you guys said, it was a prosperous relationship that we had. But in the end, knowing that, we saw the writing on the wall and whether that meant that decision was going to happen 6 months from now, 18 months from now, it was, why not now? We had to ask ourselves that question. So we did. And, we're looking forward to the future.
I was just saying, it kind of came down almost to us also like a need, right? It wasn't that we didn't think they were not going to be able to help us grow. They pretty much outright refused, and we saw them doing things in the need of their business model.
Oh.
Nothing to do with the need of our business model, right? And that was just really like, if we keep doing this relationship, we actually keep hurting ourselves. And so we came to the decision that it was hard to do because, like you said, it was really prosperous relationship for us for a while, but it was needed because we continued to feed somebody who was going against us, and that just wasn't best for the business's long term.
When you look at a decision like that, guys, I want to ask you about, getting your team to buy in because you guys have a lot of people that work for you. But before I get to that, I want to ask you just about the alignment between the two of you as the co-founders of the company, as the owners. What were those conversations like as you two obviously, talked through this, went through the pros and cons, and ultimately came to the decision to pull the trigger on this?
Well, headlocks and arm wrestling, right?
Which I won, by the way.
There was a couple good ones in there for me, but no, really, between the two of us, there was there was never any real animosity. We both kind of knew it was the case. We maybe had a difference of opinion of when at times, but we both kind of knew it had to happen. We both saw really what was happening here, and we both saw that it wasn't for the best of the organization. I think the only differences between Matt and I is when do we do this? And finally, it just came to a point where we both just said, let's just do it. Let's just do it, because rip the Band-Aid off and let's move on. So
okay, so you make the decision jointly to do it when you did. So how do you then go about making sure that your team members are aligned and bought in to what you're doing? Because tell our listeners again, how many employees do you guys have in your company?
Well, employees, it's upwards of 380. Loan officers, we have 326 today, I think it is. So there was a lot of people affected, is the reality, right? A lot of loan officers at our organization did a lot of business with this group. But these weren't conversations that we just had with them, hey, tomorrow we're going to do this, right? We've been having conversations with them for a while. We've been discussing it. We put it on our internal blogging sections, and so it wasn't like a dramatic surprise to them. I think how it went down was, but I think with them, they knew our opinion of it. Matt, help me out here, right? They were bought in early on this, the vast majority.
They
not
were.
all of them, but the majority.
Yeah, they were, and we were very strategic about our covering our bases. We knew that we had, we have employees that need to make a living for their families, and we understand that, that's a top priority of ours, is to make sure our people are always taking care of their responsibilities and they're living the life that they want to live. So there was a lot of replacements that we had to put in place to make this decision. I mean, you're cutting off a big part of your business. We had to have other, people, other business partnerships that could step up and kind of fill the void. So we made sure that we did that first, and that was part of the strategic plan that we had. And once they were in place, I think it made it a lot easier to rip the Band-Aid off. So when Mike was referring to the timing of it, I was kind of like, maybe we should wait a little bit longer. But when we looked at everything we had built and everything we had put in place, why not rip the Band-Aid off? Like, why wait? It doesn't do anybody any justice. So that's what we did.
Yeah, and sometimes, hey, you just got to go, man. I love it, man. Some guy, you just got to go after it. Now, let me ask you guys this, because what happened, I'm sure you guys were aligned with it, but some of your team members. And what happened, did you guys get any pushback from some of the team members with the decision didn't fit so well with them, and how it impacted their business? How did you guys handle those situations?
So there really wasn't, much pushback. There was conversations had ahead of time. So,
okay.
We made sure, like I said, there was a strategy in place. We made sure to respect all of our employees and respect their wishes. So for some of our guys who are doing a tremendous amount of business with, the person with the company that we severed ties with, we talked to them first, and we made sure they understood that we had other plans in place. We had other partnerships in place that would be more fruitful, provide them with more benefits, and really made sure they were bought into that. Not one of our loan officers really, gave us pushback at the decision. I think at the time there might have been a little confusion, a little bit of apprehension to the timing of it, like we had talked about. But it was pretty easy to overcome. We've got a really strong culture here at NEXA Mortgage. We truly surround ourselves with like-minded individuals, and I think that's helped us a lot in making these decisions and not having such a huge negative impact on the company when we do.
Well, and to piggyback off that a little bit, right? I mentioned it. The one thing that they were surprised a little bit about is kind of how it went down.
Yeah.
Nobody was surprised that it was going to go down, but Mateen, you'll appreciate this. This was like a game time decision, right?
Oh, yeah.
We did this, and then all of a sudden, this other partner reacted in a way that we didn't expect.
Oh.
And it got a little bit ugly. And so we had to stop for a minute and call a timeout, do a game time adjustment, draw up a new play, and go with based on what we had at hand.
Oh.
But it ended up working out well for us. Everybody rallied around us. our folks, and they really supported us throughout it. They knew it was difficult on us, but the support that they gave us because of that culture we have, because of the communication that we constantly lay out to everybody, really did help us get through it.
Yeah, it's a great, and specifically the support from the broker community. Really helped. I mean, we're kind of a brotherhood. We look at ourselves as, we all go to the same events. We all see each other. We all share and collaborate ideas. And being part of the broker community, really seeing their reactions and their support, that was tremendous. I mean, we can't thank them enough. It was amazing to see, and it helped our people kind of agree that and see that, hey, this was the best decision. We're glad that we did it.
It's interesting, a couple of things there to unpack. The fact that you guys said you have this culture of, great communication. You mentioned the internal blog and the fact that you communicated this to all of your team members in advance. And you know what? Kudos to you guys, because transparency, and Mateen, you can appreciate this. Transparency is such a huge thing. Whether you're in business or you're on a team. If the coach is gonna cut your playing time, you'd like to at least know about it in advance, right? So, kudos to you guys for being transparent, for communicating with your team, because, no matter what you're doing, if you're open and honest with somebody, they may not, 100% agree with the decision, but at least they knew about it. And I think that that's something that a lot of people can appreciate.
Yeah, that communication is real important to all in NEXA Nation,
So it sounds like, you guys talked a little bit about being with like-minded people and having like-minded, partners. And I don't want to ask you about that part. What are the core values of your company, and why is it important to you guys to align yourselves with partners who share some of those same values and philosophies?
Yeah, our core values are very, I don't want to call them simple. They're more of a common sense approach. And, it starts with, one of our core values of the golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated. Like, the ultimate respect for your human being and for your fellow partners, I think is key. We talk about, being a thumb pointer and not a finger pointer, always looking to, and this goes into another core value of always seeking to improve, but looking inward, taking self-accountability of what I could have done differently in a situation or in a predicament. And then finally, to do the right thing. At all times, doing the right thing might not always be the easy thing to do. In most cases, it probably does turn into being the harder thing to do, but always do the right thing. Act with integrity, high level of ethics, and it'll drive your decisions, and it'll drive your ultimate goals, and you'll always come out on top. So we do believe in those as our core values, and it's something that we, when I do an onboarding with a class of new loan officers every week, it's something I really push, something we really talk about, and really get bought in. We really get our guys to buy into it. So we like to make sure that all that's aligned at all times, and every decision that you're going to make, we like to ensure that all of the core values are there.
And let me dive in, because you said something that really caught my attention, and I think it's a winning. All winners kind of think the same way, and it was saying, if something doesn't go right, what could I have done better? Because it's easy to point the finger and play the blame game when things don't go right. But you said that really caught my attention, and I think a lot of successful people, what a coincidence, a lot of successful people, they have that mentality.
Yeah, we're not, and nobody's going to be immune to, bringing the right or wrong person in at times too, right? So you just gotta get rid of the folks that don't align to your mentality quickly. You gotta get rid of partners that don't align to your core values really quickly. And I mean, we've had to let go of the number one reason that NEXA has ever let anybody go is that character issue, is that character flaw. You just can't treat people right, or you can't accept responsibility. And every business will have it, especially if you grow. It's how you handle it. And do you really stick to it, or you just talk out of both sides of your mouth, just say this is my value, but you really don't enforce it, And we make sure we do.
When you guys, obviously being as big as you guys are now, like we said, the fourth largest brokerage in the country, when you have other, loan officers or other people in the industry or even people in other walks of life approach you about, having success in business and really growing a company into what you guys have grown it into, are those the things that you really preach to them, the character things and, having a strong culture, or is it more focused on business strategies? What do you guys start with, I guess, when somebody approaches you about advice, whether it's, an entrepreneur or another business owner or somebody who's looking to get into business for themselves?
Yeah, we focus on character first. The business strategies will come, and we're fortunate enough to have, 300 plus people in the industry that have proven strategies that work. So our collaboration and our ability to have our LOs collaborate with one another is tremendous. So the strategies are going to be there, but we do look. For us, it's all about character first, and I think Mike does an awesome job, and when he does his recruiting calls every Thursday, he does a tremendous job of not only just talking about the differentiators and what makes NEXA different, but really he talks about a piece of character in there. And then when they come to me for the onboarding, it's just a reinforcement of that. So we do look at character first, and I think that is at the forefront of everything that we do.
I'm big on that.
Yeah, I think we need to talk about our long-term goals here for a minute, Matt. We're the fourth largest brokerage right now, but that's based on volume, and that bothers us a little bit, right? We're going to have to make some adjustments here. So we have the second highest number of loan officers, but the fourth production, that's a problem. We got to make some adjustments.
I love it. And you guys hit a little bit on that character, and it takes me back, to be honest, to my college days. I remember going to Michigan State University, and, we were trying to find our niche. We were trying to, be noticed as one of the top programs in the country. And I think that's one of the things that we started on. It was, who do we recruit? What type of guys do we recruit? It's not all about having athletic guys or guys that can play basketball. It was guys that fit into our culture. And I think once we start getting good guys in, good people and hard workers, we were able to change the culture at Michigan State and take it to a next level. Now, let me ask you guys this question, because culture is big time to me. And here at United Shore, we have a great culture. How do you guys, because you guys have grown, man. You guys have grown fast. How do you guys grow, but yet keep that same culture intact?
Oh, you got to have constant communication. So one thing that we do a lot of, we're really pride ourselves on, is we do a NEXA town hall every single week. And it's live, online video. The entire company gets together, and everybody comes on with live video, and they can see each other. You're not shaking hands, but you at least have that sense of, I'm looking at this person.
Yeah.
Even though we have loan officers across the country. And in that call, there's no topic off limits. We tell people, we encourage them in that call, tell us what's going on. We call it a town hall because it's important that they understand it's an open mic for everybody. I don't care what your problem is. At the end of my recruiting calls I do every week, I leave it with, now guys, if you come here and anything I told you on this call is not given to you, you come to that town hall meeting and you call me out in front of everybody. And it's that accountability that we have to them to come to that meeting, open up the mic to anybody, no matter what. And we get caught off guard sometimes. We're like, oh, we didn't expect that was coming. Right?
Careful what you wish for or ask for.
Exactly, right? And so, but that's okay because we fix it. Oftentimes we fix it while we're on the call because we have the whole company there. And we'll just call out our director of ops and say, hey, what's going on with this? And she's like, well, you know what? I'll get that fixed right now. And then maybe the payroll person comes on and says, you know what? I got this. I understand what the problem is. They literally fix it on the spot, but it's that accountability in public. And that's part of that town hall meeting, I think, is part of how we got the communication for this partner that we cut off, right? Got through it so easily within our group because everybody really, even though we're all across the country, everybody feels like we're all together. And that's how we keep everybody constantly updated with each other. So
no, it sounds like, it really flows nicely with, one of the philosophies that you guys have as a company. And I want to ask you just, about the focus that you guys have being really on your team. We talked a little bit, a few days ago about, what your priorities are. And you guys said it, straight up, that you are focused entirely on your team members and making sure that they are a number one priority. Whereas other business owners out there are looking at the bottom line, they're looking at, ROI on certain things. But you guys were very clear about that. Why is that so important to you guys as the owners of the company?
I think, we feel your people are going to be your biggest asset, regardless of what industry you're in. It doesn't really matter. If your people aren't going to get it done, if you can't get it done, the business isn't going to strive. So we value the person. I pride myself, and so does Mike, on knowing that we have probably one of the most diverse employment staffs in the entire, broker industry. We're in 18 different states. We've got boots on the ground all over. So we could sit back and we could just, squeeze to the bottom line. But at the end of the day, you're gonna ruin relationships along the way. Those relationships could be bad ones that could turn into ruining your business down the road and your reputation. So we really focus on the individual. We focus on our employees, on our loan officers first. We provide a very high level of support, and this stemmed from when Mike and I first became brokers, or Mike went back to the broker world with me. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we made some mistakes along the way. We had to learn. We had to learn the hard way a few times, and things that we just didn't know. And there was that sense of like, man, you're on your own now. You're a broker. So we wanted to make sure that our loan officers, when we knew that we wanted to grow to scale, in order to do that, we knew that we had to make it as easy a transition for them as possible. And the only way to do that is through support. We really do. We value the individual.
Well, and to piggyback there a little bit, right? I'll ask a question to the answer. Who's the most important person in a mortgage company's environment? Is it the owner? I don't produce loans anymore. I'm not responsible for bringing in the revenues anymore. I'm responsible to support them, but it's the loan officer. The loan officer has to be the center of our universe. They just have to be. And at the end of the day, Matt and I, we don't think we look at this thing like we have 300 how many loan officers? We look at this thing in almost a surreal moment, not realizing or not really grasping the size of what we've become, because we are really loan officers at heart. And we really strive to make sure we never forget the feeling of being the loan officer, being on the ground, being the one that has to deal with the clients or the complaints or what the system, how the system works, or the processing, whatever the case may be. Not ever forgetting that moment. That way you can really, truly understand how the loan officer is feeling, and then provide them with everything that you can possibly give them in order to be successful or be happy with where they're at, because then they'll be more productive as long as you can do that.
It's a great point, and when you were just talking there, it reminded me, Mateen, of as a basketball player or an athlete playing for a coach who used to play. It's like when you were playing basketball, what was your relationship like with the assistant coaches or even a head coach who used to play, who knew what it was like to be in your shoes, maybe versus somebody who really, looked at themselves as, the coach, maybe putting themselves above the players?
Well, it was always a great relationship because they were there. I mean, they understand that every game, they understand that you miss shots. You're not going to make every shot. They understand you're going to turn the ball over. And sometimes people, and even in leadership, they forget that they were just team members not too long ago. So I think sometimes our leaders, they have to decompress somewhat, come off of that high horse, and remember how you wanted to be approached when you were a team member, how you wanted to be talked to, and you wanted to feel appreciated. So I'm glad you brought that up. But let me ask you guys this question, because you mentioned making mistakes. And I said, and a big smile came to my face, because some people make mistakes and they think it's the end of the world. And you don't become successful by not making mistakes and keep pushing through it. So when you guys did make mistakes, what was the process, after you made a mistake and moving forward?
Call a timeout. Right? Hold on. Stop a second. Let's draw this back up. Okay. I mean, making decisions is important. You have to do it.
Right.
Right. So some people get caught up in the decision-making process and they never really make one. I mean, we have to make 6-7 decisions a day, some of them more important than others. But if one of those decisions wasn't perfect, that's fine, because tonight we can alter it a little bit, right? We can call a timeout real quick. We can game change that. And you've got to be willing to change the plan a little bit, because, no play in sports ever goes exactly the way you wrote it up, right? And so you got to make some adjustments. And that's what we do. We make adjustments.
And I think for Mike and myself, our first step is we admit to the mistake. We let our guys know, hey guys, yeah, that was a mistake of ours, but we're going to fix it, and this is what we're going to do to fix it. So, you're going to make mistakes, at times, sometimes often, but you got to fix them fast.
Right, and I think like far in sports or business, it kind of go hand in hand. If you can, most successful people make adjustments on the fly. When I first got to Michigan State University, we struggled at making adjustments. But as I got older and mature, and Coach Izzo matured as a coach, we started winning games by being able to adjust. We made adjustments on the fly. And I think great teams have that, and great businesses have that mentality, and that's one of the big reasons why they're having success.
Yeah, Mike, one of the things you said, I think, about game planning, too, reminded me of that famous Mike Tyson quote. Everybody's got a game plan until you get punched in the mouth, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly right.
We've talked a lot about, your business and the success that you guys have had, but I want to ask you guys both a little bit about your origin story, because, Mike, you've got a fascinating backstory, and speaking of getting hit in the mouth, I mean, you've experienced some things. You went through some really tough times when you were a younger guy. Tell our listeners about some of the things you went through and how they shaped you on your path to becoming the person that you are today.
So not only am I going to tell your listeners, but I'm going to have a lot of NEXA Nation reach out on this one. Forgive me, I don't tell this story very often. I'm surprised I told you. But, all right, so I didn't have the easiest childhood coming up, right? I didn't come from a silver spoon. I don't even know if Kortas is my real. In fact, we're pretty sure Kortas is not my real last name, but it's the one I have. So I had to create something from scratch on my own, right? I was out on my own by 16, trying to figure out how to survive, right? Trying to figure out how to find a place to live when you're not even legally allowed to enter a contract. So doing things like that and showing through that, I knew that I had to get out of that situation. Got in trouble as a teenager. I was forced back into the house literally on my 18th birthday. I was kicked out of the house. Kind of knew it wasn't going well, but didn't expect it on that day. Had to figure some things out. I went to live on the streets for a while. I slept in some farms.
Wow.
And I just knew I didn't want to be there. I knew I was better than that. People didn't look at me like I was, but I knew that I was better than this. And interesting storyline to this is that I actually had an opening moment, because I worked as a landscaper by day, right? Landscape installation, digging trenches, planting plants, shoveling rock. That's what I did in the morning. That's why I would sleep in the farm, because that's where the crew met. So I wouldn't be late because I didn't have an alarm clock. So I wake up. But in the evenings, when you don't have a place to go, you can get into trouble, right? And it's expensive to be homeless. So I picked up another full-time job. And so I was working at a gas station pumping gas. But I did it in a very high-end area, right? Because it was one of the last full-service gas stations in our area. And it was interesting because that was back in the early 90s when the Phoenix Suns were on their run, right? And these players were all coming in. Kevin Johnson, Marley came in, though. And I remember sitting there pumping his gas. Really nice guy, by the way. And I just couldn't understand why I couldn't have what everybody else was having, right? It really flipped the switch in me. And I knew then I had to change. And it took a lot. A couple more months after that, I got into some assisted housing. And then I clawed my way out of it, right? I went into to bill collecting and found my way into mortgages from that. And then, of course, the rest is somewhat history. I really do enjoy those beginnings, though, because it really makes me who I am today. It makes me the fighter that I am today.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes me, understand that, you can have it all taken away, and you don't have to have it, but you got to earn this now, and you got to keep it. And to me, I strive to show others that that they can have those things too, no matter their circumstance, no matter where they came from.
I love it. And you know what? And you can make circumstances like that work for you. You know, that you can let it motivate you instead of some people take the road of feeling sorry for themselves. And I appreciate the fact, Mike, that you didn't. You know, and you looked at these guys, very successful people, and said, why not me? Why can I have the nice cars? Why can I have the nice house? And you didn't give up, and you believed in yourself. So I want to take the second to commend you for that, because a lot of people, they give up. And I think the survivors and the successful people, they find a way, man. They don't find an excuse, they find a way. So that's a heck of a story, Mike. Very impressive.
I appreciate it. I'll probably get a lot of calls after this. So
no, we appreciate you sharing it with us. And you know, Matt, when you kind of learned about Mike and his background, and obviously you guys have been working together now for a while, but you know, when you learned about, you know, the way that he kind of scratched and clawed his way to where he is now, you know, what thoughts come to mind for you, not just as his business partner, but also as his friend?
Well, I think it started with finding, you know, common ground. You know, even growing up as a kid, I always believed in hard work. So seeing that we had that commonality, seeing that we both had that same vision, the never stay down mentality of, you know, life's going to get you down. I mean, you know, it's not always going to be rainbows and butterflies, right? So you've got to be able to weather the storm and then come back and keep punching. So, you know, I grew up, you know, I lost my father at a young age, and for me, it was you had to grow up and be the man of the house sooner than you really wanted to at the age of 10. So it was just a constant fight. It was just, you know, never want to let, you know, your loved ones down. Like, I didn't want to let my mom down, right? So I have this huge sense of pride, and I want to be responsible. I want to be the one where if you need something, I'm there, okay? Like, I don't want to be irresponsible. Don't ever be thought of as that. So it's constantly proving it to myself, and seeing that Mike had that same work ethic and that same drive. Obviously, we have two different stories, but kind of similar. But knowing that we had that, you know, we want people to tell us, no, you can't do it. Right? That is what I want. I want to hear somebody say, you can't do it. We thought about opening up a brokerage, and we had goals of being the largest, you know, mortgage broker in the country. We didn't listen to the people that would say, oh, brokers can't grow more than 3 or 4 different employees. That's all they can have. They can't ever be big because the system doesn't support that. We wanted people to tell us that it couldn't be done. So Mike and I, we like challenges. The harder the challenge, I think the better it is that we respond, and, you know, pressure. You know, we like the pressure, and sometimes we put more pressure on ourselves. But that's just because we like to strive. We want to be successful. We want to be great at what we do. So, seeing Mike having the same mentality, it's easy to go to battle with your partner, right? It's easy to go to battle with one of your brothers. And that's, you know, me and Mike, I think we're beyond just business partners. And I think that's the best part about it.
I love it. And you said, brother, I always encourage people. I said, don't look at some of your team members as coworkers, because if it's a coworker, you'll do just enough. If you look at your team members as family members, then you'll go over and beyond for them. That's just a natural behavior that we've learned growing up. You go over and beyond for family members. So if you're looking at your team members as family members, then that's what you'll do. So I'm glad that you said that, the brotherhood. And every good team I played on, we all had that mentality. Every bad team I played on, we didn't have that mentality.
That's true.
Great stuff, guys. Hey, but before we let you go, you know, just to put a bow on the original conversation about this big decision that you recently made that obviously has short and long-term ramifications for your company. If you're offering advice to other people in business out there who may find themselves in a similar situation where they've got to make a tough call, what are the things you would say to those people?
Sometimes you just got to do it. You got to make decisions. And it might be tough, but you just got to do it. Just be ready for a game plan. You got to be nimble enough to make changes on the fly as you go. So, but if it's a decision that's inevitable, stop at the inevitable. Just do it. It's going to happen. You know it's not right for your company, even though it's going to be painful. Get rid of that now, right? Pain is not permanent. Right? It's temporary. So get rid of it now, and then you can move on to doing things better.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to persistence and will. All right, are you willing to do the things that you need to do to be successful, to have your business be a success? I think about the quote from Vince Lombardi: "The difference between a successful person and others is not a lack of strength, not a lack of knowledge, but rather a lack of will." So, are you willing to do it? Are you going to go out and fight every day? You don't have to be the best. You don't have to be the smartest. You don't have to have the most money. But are you going to have the will? You're going to outwork the next person to be successful. And I think that, to me, is key. Make the decision. It might be a hard decision, but when you make that decision, carry it through. Be persistent. See it through the end.
Wow, I love it. And for our listeners, first things first, Mike and Matt, you guys better get ready because your phone lines are going to be blown up. You're going to have people from all across America that want to work with you guys. I'm telling you. So first things first with that. And second thing I want to say, for people that wondered why NEXA Mortgage is having some success, you don't have to worry. I mean, you don't have to wonder no more. With the mentality and the drive that you guys have, it's the reason why you guys are having success.
We appreciate that, Mateen, especially coming from a champion. I'm a Go Blue guy, so it's
Oh,
to say, but man,
see, we were all playing nice until now, and now the gloves are really going to come off.
But hey, listen, it's all good. A winner respects a winner. So it's all good.
Hey guys, we really appreciate you taking the time and for sharing your insights with us. Thanks so much for joining us, and best of luck to you guys in the future.
Yeah, thank you both, man. We really had a lot of fun.
All right, keep winning.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
all right.
All right, Mateen, great stuff from Matt Grella and Mike Kortas of NEXA Mortgage. What a story, not just with what they recently had the courage to do to end that very prosperous business relationship, but the dynamic between the two of them, and Mike's background, some of the things that he'd been through growing up. When you think about the conversation that we started with, decisions and choosing long-term versus short-term, and what Mike and Matt talked about, what do you think are the biggest takeaways here?
Well, first of all, is one thing I took away from is confidence. First of all, they had to believe in themselves to break away from a very prosperous situation that they were in. So the confidence that those guys had to break away, I mean, that stuck out to me. But I think about resiliency when you look at these guys, man, because I'm sure it wasn't easy. And, they mentioned making mistakes, but fighting through it. And another thing that stuck out to me is the culture thing. Yeah. I think that's very important when you're trying to have a successful business. The culture. You can have people that's smart, that's good at a job, but if they don't fit into the culture, if they're not team guys, then they're not. It's going to be a cancer to your team.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I really go back to the whole communication aspect of it too. The fact that they have this culture in place where they're so transparent, they communicate regularly with their team members. So when you've got some big news to drop on them, and let's be honest, some people may not have really liked it because it impacts their business and the here and now. You'd have to think that because of the system they have set up where they are so communicative, they are so transparent with their team, that people probably respect the fact that they told them the way they did, even if they may not 100% agree with it.
Oh, yeah, they definitely respect it, Justin. And think about this. We all don't like change. Oh, man, we hate change. But if we know the why that's behind the change, then, hey, it's all good. And I think great communicators, they understand that. Sometimes to have success in whatever it is, whether it's sports, whether it's business, you have to be able to adapt. And when change comes about, the leader has to communicate that to the team members. They have to put the why behind the reason why their change is coming.
It just dawned on me that, with our whole conversation about, short-term versus long-term thinking, I don't know how many of our listeners know that way back in the day, young Mateen Cleaves had to choose between basketball and football, because not only was Mateen a stud point guard, he was also a star quarterback. So tell them out there, how did you end up choosing basketball? Was that very much a long-term decision versus a short-term one?
It sure was. And the funny thing about it is that I've always felt I could have long-term success in basketball. You think about injuries when you think football. And I was thinking down the road, yeah, I could probably have monetary success with football, but I was thinking down the road, okay, long term, the health wise, and that's why I really chose basketball, because I thought health reasons. I was thinking big picture, and it ended up working out for me.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. I mean, it's not one that I can really relate to. I mean, having coaches from Division I programs just waltzing into my living room. Hey, you want to play basketball? Hey, you want to play football? I mean, that must have been pretty cool.
And think about this too, Justin. Now, as I get older, even choosing a school, think big picture. I was thinking long term. If I went to the Blue Bloods or the Kentuckys, the Michigan, the Kansas, the Dukes, North Carolinas, if you win a championship there, okay, that might last a year or two. Okay, great job, but it meant a lot more to win a championship at Michigan State, to help build a program that was kind of at ground zero at that time. It meant a lot more to help build that program and to win a championship there. Now, I mean, this 20 years, we haven't won a championship. I still walk back in Michigan State's gym and I get standing ovation. They love it. So for me, even picking a school, I was thinking long term, down the line. If I go to Michigan State and have success, how would the people endure that?
I give you credit, man, because not a lot of 16, 17-year-old kids would be able to make a decision like that, because like you said, they're probably starstruck by the Dukes and the Kentuckys and the Kansas or UCLA, those true blue blood programs. Because like you said, at the time that you chose Michigan State, they were not a program that was really nationally renowned like they are now.
No, it wasn't. Coach Izzo was in his first year. He couldn't promise me I could get you to the NBA because he hadn't coached guys that went to the NBA yet. He couldn't promise me I was going to go to the Final Four or win a national championship because he hadn't done it. So I was thinking, if I can go there and help build this program, it would mean a lot more opposed to going somewhere where the table is already set.
So I guess the real takeaway here, or the lesson to be learned, is whether you're deciding which college you should go to or whether or not to buy the hot dog at Costco. Think about it long and hard before you actually do it.
Exactly.
All right, good stuff, Mateen. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We will see you next time on Power Forward. To make sure you never miss an episode of Power Forward, subscribe wherever you find your podcasts and leave us a review. And look for another new episode coming your way 2 weeks from now, featuring more inspirational stories of success. I'm Justin White. We'll see you next time on Power Forward.